Looking at her hands, once so fair and delicate, Bianca couldn't believe the transformation she had undergone. But what was there to be surprised about? Hard labor, which she now faced every day, did nothing to enhance youth or beauty. Was it really her fate, a noble Venetian, to spend the rest of her life cleaning up after others? Oh no, the beautiful Bianca would not accept such a future. This was a fate that befell many noble families. One son or daughter would show such poor tendencies from a young age that it could ultimately lead to the ruin of the family's reputation. Bianca Capello, a patrician born in Venice in the mid-16th century, was one such case. Daring and overly free-spirited, she had a hard time keeping quiet when she should have and controlling her impulses. Her family was eager to rid themselves of her, so at the age of 14, she was betrothed to the son of the Doge. Another girl in her position would have been overjoyed. A wonderful, secure future. But Bianca dreamed of adventure and least of all wanted to become a staid matron. It was no surprise that a fellow adventurer, the Florentine Pietro Bonaventure, easily won her affection. The lovers devised a plan to escape from Venice to the young man's homeland, where, he claimed, honor and glory awaited them. Pietro convinced Bianca to steal all the jewels and money she could find in her father's palace. Why this wealthy Florentine insisted on such a step didn't surprise her, but perhaps she should have thought twice. They fled to Florence, completely unaware of the consequences that awaited them. First, Bianca's father, upon discovering the theft, alerted the authorities. Second, he announced a reward of 1,000 ducats for Pietro's capture. Third, the esteemed Signor Capello had no objections when the Venetian Senate declared the fugitives exiles. This meant they were forever barred from returning to Venice. Another misfortune awaited Bianca in Florence itself. Pietro had deceived her. He was not a wealthy man from a banking family, quite the opposite. The seducer turned out to be poor, so much so that his father assigned all the household chores to Bianca. The Bonaventure family couldn't afford servants. Thus, the noble Venetian girl, accustomed to silk dresses and fine food, became a maid, scraping by on bread and water. And she couldn't leave. Even on the way to Florence, she had married Pietro and soon found herself pregnant. Besides, where could she return? Venice had exiled her. Bianca Capello di Bonaventure became a mother. They named her daughter Virginia. The newlyweds found themselves trapped. Bianca's father sent several mercenaries to Florence, tasked with finding them and bringing them back to the Venetian Republic. Leaving the city was impossible because Pietro couldn't find work. Finally, he managed to secure a position with the new Duke of Tuscany, Francesco, who was the son of Cosimo and Princess Eleonora of Toledo. This was a turning point in Bianca's life. Pietro quickly figured out his new employer. The wealthiest man in Florence, Francesco Medici, was unhappy. He lacked love, and the prospect of marrying the emperor's daughter did little to inspire him. So, the young adventurer decided to involve his own wife. He would introduce the beautiful Bianca to the Duke. What if it worked? And it actually did work. The introduction, orchestrated by Pietro, left a lasting impression on Francesco Medici. He fell in love with the runaway Venetian at first sight. Most likely, Bianca became the Duke's mistress. First and foremost, she used his influence to resolve her past troubles. Francesco not only secured forgiveness for the beautiful woman, but even arranged for her dowry. Venice had no more claims against the scandalous daughter of the Capello family. In due course, Francesco Medici married the emperor's daughter. Although his heart belonged to Bianca, he gifted his beloved a lavish palace near his own and showered her with jewels and gold. The legitimate Duchess of Tuscany, the proud Joanna, felt deeply insulted. In Florence, gossip about the Duke was rampant. It seemed he was utterly enchanted by his Venetian mistress. Many disliked Bianca out of jealousy, calling her a sorceress. They whispered about the Duchess, who was suffering greatly from her husband's infidelity, and about Bianca's husband, who suddenly landed a lucrative position. It was clear why. The rumors intensified when Pietro was killed right on the street where his wife's palace stood. The Duchess of Tuscany was becoming a problem. She openly hated Bianca and repeatedly complained about her in letters to her father, the emperor. Joanna tried to insult her husband's mistress at every opportunity, and as eyewitnesses recounted, she nearly ordered her servants to beat Bianca when they crossed paths on the street. It took considerable effort to dissuade Joanna from this course of action. The Duke would never have forgiven her. The rivalry between the two women spilled over into another arena. Joanna gave birth to daughters one after another, while Bianca was determined to have a son at all costs. That would be a true triumph over the Duchess, and she won this competition. A boy named Antonio was born, whom Francesco recognized and even gave his surname, Medici. However, this fact became mired in rumors. It was said that Bianca hadn't actually given birth to the boy, but that another woman was hidden in her home. A maid of the Venetian let this slip, and it subsequently tarnished the life of Antonio de' Medici significantly. A year later, Joanna gave birth to a son, Philip. The Duke of Tuscany was in an astonishing mood. He showered gifts on both his legitimate wife and his mistress, as well as his two sons. It seemed that peace had settled over Florence. But then, Joanna passed away. The official story was that she died in childbirth. The unofficial version suggested she was poisoned, or even pushed down the stairs. Rumors intensified on the day of the Duchess's funeral. Bianca showed no signs of grief, not even a semblance of it, while Francesco openly greeted her as the mourning procession passed by her home. Just 3 months later, the Duke of Tuscany remarried. To Bianca, this union was kept under wraps, and her move to the Duke's residence was explained as her new role as the children's governess. This was done to avoid public outrage. Too little time had passed since Joanna's death, but by October, the wedding was celebrated with all possible splendor. Now, no one could sneer at Bianca. She had officially become a Medici, both in status and title. However, whispers about Bianca's supposed witchcraft continued. These rumors were fueled by Francesco Medici himself, primarily because of his interest in alchemy. In the 16th century, many high-ranking individuals dabbled in such pursuits, and anything mysterious always invites speculation. It seemed that Bianca shared her husband's fascination. After all, she came from a noble family and had received an excellent education. But soon the reputation of the Duchess of Tuscany suffered again. Francesco's legitimate son passed away, and many were quick to blame Bianca. They claimed that the new ruler of Florence dreamed of making her son Antonio the next duke, although the idea of poisoning Philip seemed more like a fabrication. One day, Francesco Medici and his wife Bianca attended a formal dinner with family members and some distinguished guests. After the meal, the duke began to feel unwell. His wife soon felt worse as well. 11 days later, Francesco passed away, and Bianca survived him by just a few hours. It is believed that the Tuscan family succumbed to malaria, but there is an alternative theory. It's not hard to guess what that might be. Much has been written about Bianca Capello, but over time, it has become increasingly difficult to separate fact from fiction. Let's be objective. At the very least, the Duchess of Tuscany was never a witch.